Hi everyone at English 1301, it's Dr. E and I'm here with your week 2 instructional video. I may have to pause a couple of times to cough. Allergies are just killing me right now. If you deal with allergies, then you definitely know what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and jump into the content area just to review a few things before we get to this week's module. So if you haven't, please do continue to click around and get comfortable with where to go and how to find things in D2L, especially in the content area. That's where we spend most of our time. So if you look on the left-hand side here is essentially our table of contents. So the book and any additional readings we might have will always be housed here. The student success module has everything that you kind of need as a whole student, right? So it's not just kind of the academic side, but there's also the personal side. If you're going through anything, there are links for counseling, for information about food security, funding, all of that kind of stuff. Everything can be found here, including technology support. And then there's also the information about bonus events and workshops and information about how to reach out to Michael, our wonderful tutor, who is definitely excited and available to help you. And then tips, tricks, all the stuff for writing. And then we have the area with our syllabus schedule and rubrics. Again, this is everything you need for our course, right? So the syllabus and the schedule are always housed here. Any of the templates that might be useful to you. Everything is kind of grouped by the type of assignment, including instructional videos. Now, these are videos from the past, so please note that until you kind of watch the video that's assigned in that week, there may be some updates and things that I've changed. I'm trying to go through and make sure all the materials are accessible, and that there aren't any issues for those that may have some visual concerns or some audio concerns. I'm trying to kind of reformat and repost those, so just be patient with some of those materials. All right, so scrolling down, there's a whole section on MLA. MLA can be overwhelming and super annoying. So there's the link to the Purdue Online Writing Lab website, which is, kind of the gold standard in terms of dealing with MLA and APA. So if you're taking courses that require APA, then this is just a wonderful resource. And then there's some MLA, examples using an article from the course, an MLA video from me from a while back that just kind of goes through my personal expectations as a professor when it comes to MLA in our course. Sometimes professors have specific things here or there, and these, let you know that there's nothing outside of MLA. So this is a video that's helpful and that you will be watching later. And then other kinds of resources also. And then there's a whole section on D2L and any kind of tech help. So if you have questions about how to use OneDrive, Google Docs, how to set up slides, VLAC, remember that really should be bookmarked on your device. Just all these kinds of how-tos when it comes to functioning within D2L. All right, let's go to the week 2 module. You do have 3 chapters to read this week in our course text. One is on language, power, and rhetoric, which is a really important chapter just about how, language is something we utilize every day. We don't always take the time to kind of investigate the value, the importance, and the power that's held within that language. So this is a chapter that really helps kind of identify those important details, helps push us to think about how we utilize language, how those around us use language, and the power of that language. And then we have a chapter on how, just reminders really. These are things about reading that I'm sure we've thought about in the past, or even just don't think about on the regular. We're just reading and taking things in. So we really want to push to read a bit more rhetorically. And then thinking about our writing process, right? Again, writing is something that sometimes we do without thinking much about. We're texting, we are posting on social media, we are writing an email, we're doing these things kind of passively. And so this is a chapter that's pushing us to think a bit more about the process that we're utilizing. Okay, so everything, I'm gonna have to pause. Okay, my bad. Okay, so everything's available this week. I did put a line through the food journal video. It just didn't seem helpful to watch an additional video when we're not working on our food journal this week. So we'll delay that until I believe next week. So remember, take time to review all the materials, jump around in D2L, all of that good stuff. I do want to note that the mind map video is, again, from the past. I have not been able to update it yet. But I do have some updated templates that I worked on over the weekend. So when you see the templates in the video, just know that those have been updated a bit just to be a bit more kind of specific to the assignment. And that'll make sense. All right, so you have a discussion post this week, a mind map, and a quiz, always a quiz. Remember that the discussion post is, quote, due on Thursday, but you can certainly take a little bit of extra time with it. But again, because Sundays usually have kind of the bulk of our assignments, I do always encourage you to post on Thursday. Okay, so here's again that mind map video. Remember that those templates have been updated, which I've posted here. And I've posted them in a Word template format. And if you go to the syllabus schedule and rubrics area, you can also find the links in OneDrive. So I'm really trying to move away from having things in Google Docs and moving to OneDrive, because OneDrive, again, is something that you can utilize to directly upload to D2L. Google Docs you cannot directly upload from. So just some things to think about. Okay. All right, so then we get down to the to-do section. So, review all the materials. Then if we hit the discussion board, it is going to be based on that chapter about language, power, and rhetoric, right? So I want you to think about the chapter and then write 2 to 3 full paragraphs, right? So when I say full paragraphs, I'm really meaning like strive for 4 to 5 sentences. If you're using research to support your ideas, which I really would like you to reference the text directly, just to kind of, show that you've read, show what you know. You're probably pushing for more than 4 to 5 sentences, but that, again, everybody writes a little bit differently. Anything less than 4 sentences for a paragraph isn't really a full paragraph, right? We're really trying to push our ideas, dig into them, work towards analysis, and really thoughtfully, communicating our ideas. So what are we writing about, right? So you're going to read some things by Sami Alim, and he notes that, or asks, right, how can language be used to maintain, to reinforce, and perpetuate existing power relations, right? So how can language be a tool to do these things, right? Language is a tool we're utilizing every day, but again, it holds a lot of power. So how can language be used to maintain, reinforce, and perpetuate? And conversely, how can language be used to resist, to redefine, and possibly reverse these power relations? Those are heavy questions, right? So where to begin, how to think about this? I really want us to dig into our own experiences. Now, if you're looking at these questions and thinking, what, the chapter is going to help, kind of break some of these ideas down a little bit. But when I'm thinking about your own experiences, this can be things that are happening around you, things that you're seeing. We are consuming media regularly, whether that is watching the news on television or, watching commentators, even, sport. Think about the World Cup, right? There's a lot going on when we're thinking about power, because all of these different countries with different kinds of power relations, whether with the United States or elsewhere, we're hearing a lot of rhetoric associated with the World Cup, with FIFA, all of this kind of stuff. Even if we're not into soccer, there are tons of fans from different countries coming in. And if you're on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, you're seeing, some of these funny kinds of interactions, Europeans going to Buc-ee's for the first time, that kind of thing. But within some of these conversations that just seem very day to day, there are issues of power or discussions of power. So, we are seeing these things at work. We're seeing these things online. We're seeing these things in our family and the power relations within our family. So really, I want you to think about your experiences, and I'm pushing this. These paragraphs should really be about you. If you feel like it's too personal, you can certainly email me your paragraphs. You don't have to post for, essentially everybody to see. But I really want you to think about not regurgitating ideas from these chapters. The whole point is to think about if we're in a classroom, we're having a conversation. We're not writing formally in an essay when we speak. We're thinking about our own ideas. We're working through some of those. So again, when you're posting, think about your tone, but also think about, allowing for some grace, not only for yourself when it comes to thinking through these ideas, but for your colleagues as well. Again, not expecting perfection, though I am expecting revisions and edits. Okay. Just to be clear, your grade will be based on evidence of revising, editing, but also upon how well you've connected the questions to your own experiences or insights. Okay. And for this week's post, you can earn up to 5 bonus points by responding to at least 2 colleagues. So it's not a requirement. It's just something to encourage, again, that conversation and thinking about those language elements and the power behind them. So of course, click start a new thread, put your name here and your pronouns if you choose. Remember, you can update your name in D2L excuse me, I have to cough again, if you'd like. So remember, revise and edit. I always encourage folks to, draft in Microsoft Word, so you can go through and use Grammarly, use the editing, the grammar function, the editing functions, revise and edit, and then post here. But that's just me. And again, let's think about what we read in our article last week from Irvin. There's no such thing as a perfect first draft. There's, no need to feel like good grammar is good writing. Really think about those myths that we kind of worked through in our post last week and thought about. And let's start rewriting those myths, right? Let's start erasing them and perhaps revising and rewriting them for our own use in a positive way, because those myths can be really, really stagnating to our writing. It can really make it difficult to move forward with our writing. Okay, so going back to week 2, that's our discussion post. And then you also have a mind map assignment. So if you click on that, the instructional video and all the materials are going to be helpful. I have posted the template that you can use here. So just to open it, this is what I was working on over the weekend. It's not perfect, right? But it gives you space for an idea and it gives you space for supporting quotes. So you can type and edit and you can even expand, right? If you need more space for this kind of stuff. But this is just one template of 2 that I've offered, and you certainly don't have to use them. You can use some of those other programs. Let me pause. So you can use those mind map templates, or you can use something like Canva or MindMap. There are plenty of different programs out there that can help with formatting a mind map, and then you just have to make sure that it's in a format that can be uploaded to D2L. So you click upload, you'll go to find it, and then open it. Oh, right, you have to save. So ours are in .tx, so you'll want to save. Let me pause. So when you have a template, just click the file option, the drop down menu, and then you'll click save as. And then right down here, you'll make sure it's in Word format, or you can save in PDF format, and it'll export it. This is, I'm working on a MacBook, right? So it looks a little different than what you'll have depending on your device. Okay. So then going back to week 2, you also have your quiz, and the random word for this week's quiz is going to be headphones. Yeah, I'm not that inventive. So headphones. All right. And then you also have your week 2 checklist. Remember, checking these things off does not equate to, actually doing them. This is just a tool to use for yourself. If y'all have any questions, remember that there's always that Q&A discussion board. So you can visit that and, get some answers and some help should you need it. I'll be in and out there regularly, but you can also jump in and help your fellow students and colleagues out. All right, y'all, good luck this week. Please let me know what you need. if you want to meet directly, or you can email me or text me through Google Voice. All right, take care and hang in there.